Welcome to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast with Mariana C. Ruiz, the podcast for the go-getter mom entrepreneur who refuses to let motherhood slow her down from achieving success and making an impact. Tune in Mondays to learn the success secrets of top influencers who also happen to be moms so that you can reach the success, freedom, and impact you desire.
Ready to create success on your terms, mom entrepreneur? Head on over to marianacruiz.com/success to download your copy of the game plan. It's a step-by-step process to get you results and enjoy every step of the journey. Because as mom entrepreneurs, it's about designing a business around our lives and not the other way around. Plus, I also walk you through areas where you might get stuck to help you avoid the pitfalls that so many of us have to go through. So head on over to marianacruiz.com to get your copy now. Welcome to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. So if you've ever wondered, how do I spread the word about what I do? How do I get more people to know what I do? How do I get more followers on social media? How do I get people to engage with me more? There's a few things that I'm going to talk about regarding this topic, and it starts with content creation. And content creation is really you putting down either pen to paper, yourself up on video, yourself in an audio, whatever the medium is that you choose. But it's really getting your ideas, your thoughts, your expertise in front of the ideal clients. And we sort of talked last episode, the last solo episode, about how to start to do market research so that you can identify who your ideal clients are. Of course, that's a whole different topic, but I want you to either go back and listen to that. We talked about validating your business idea and starting to hone in on that ideal client. And of course, there's a lot more we can talk about that, but make sure that you have that down before you go into this stage, which is the content creation and starting to spread the word and the message of what you do. Because without that piece, without knowing who your ideal client is, you're going to be spinning your wheels on content creation, and you're going to be creating content that takes up a lot of time, but it doesn't really move people into action, into either action to get results so that they come and buy from you, or action to actually matter to them so that they continue to follow you. So go back to that episode. I will link it in the show notes. And the show notes, by the way, are at marianacruiz.com/S1E11. That is this episode that we are listening to right now. Okay, so moving on. Content is the perfect way to spread the word about what you do. Because think about this. I want you to think about if you were to run into a computer programmer, and you're not a computer programmer, okay? And they were to tell you, oh, I work with computers. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. Great. Then a few weeks later, they say, will you buy from me? And you think, well, you work with computers, but I don't really get what you do. Like, I don't understand how you might be able to help me with regard to computers. Okay? And that is the purpose of creating content, is to start to show people what it is that you do, what your expertise is, by sharing the details that you know. And it's okay for you to share those details that you know. So don't be afraid of giving away too much content, is basically where I'm going with this point. Because I don't want you to, first of all, that's like a scarcity mentality thing. So we would definitely be working on some mindset around knowing that there is abundance and knowing that you have an infinite amount of knowledge and an infinite potential to change somebody else's lives, that way more than a blog topic that would cover like 12 points, right? if you're struggling with feeling like you're giving away too much content, I want you to go back to the mindset piece. And of course, with the success game plan, that's definitely one of the pieces where people might get stuck on this, the game plan, because the mindset piece is one of the most crucial pieces of the puzzle. So, moving on. When you're creating content, you want to show people what your expertise is by teaching them the things that you know. And through doing that, they see how you might be able to help them. And so in the last solo episode, we talked about validating your business idea, and you talked to the potential clients that would buy from you, and they told you what their pain points are. And so you've constructed a business around those needs of that ideal client. Of course, your expertise as well, because that's definitely a part of it. Then the other part is knowing what it is that makes you unique and what you're really good at. And Dana Malstoff talked about it in the last episode, talking about building your business around your gifts. And I think that we should build our business around our passions and our gifts, because I think that it's really important to be all in. And that's where the passion part comes in. I also think it's really important to build it around something that makes you unique, and also to build a smart business based on market research, which is what I talked about with validating your business idea in episode your message and what it is that you do, and how you're going to start to center all of your content should be a conglomerate of where those three circles meet. So it would be, one is your passion, what you're really excited about. One is what you're uniquely great at, and something that makes you you, something that you can't even do without being amazing at it. And sometimes that takes a little bit more work to identify, because we are often not seeing it in ourselves. And so what I invite you to do is, if you are struggling with identifying that, to ask people around you to help you to see what makes you unique. And then the other part is, like I said, what your ideal client actually wants. I don't want you to build your business completely based on what somebody else wants, because that's not in the constructs of what this freedom business is all about. I'm all about having you build a business that makes you happy and that fulfills you in every way, and that allows you to make the impact that you want to make. And so by doing that around something that is you are excited about, you'll be able to persist when the going gets tough, when you get to those failure moments. And I love those failure moments. That's why I ask people about those failure moments, because we all have them, and I want to normalize them for you. Okay, so moving on, you may or may not have heard of the quote, "You will be paid for bringing value to the marketplace." And that's a quote by Jim Rohn. And I love this quote because this quote came to me when it was a really difficult time. My daughter was still in the hospital, and I was reading this book called 6 Months to Six Figures. I will link it in the show notes as well. And in the book, he had a great example that was just so telling of where I was in my life. And it was this. He gave an example about a woman whose daughter was in the hospital, just like mine was. And he said, "You will be paid for bringing value to the marketplace, not based on your needs." So it doesn't matter if you need the money or you don't need the money. That's not what's going to get you paid. What's going to get you paid is by bringing value to the marketplace. So it all starts with knowing who the marketplace is, right? Doing the market research that I talked about in the last solo episode. It's about validating your idea and making sure that it's something that's going to make you money. But it's also about giving value. And the best way to do that is through creating content. It's through giving and through helping people before you ask for anything in return. It's by being selflessly giving of your energy, your time, and helping others. And they will start to see that, how you might be able to help them. And so that quote came to me at probably one of the most difficult moments that I have gone through. And it couldn't have been more impactful and more life-changing than it was. I became really into creating content. And as you know, if you've been following me for some time, I create crazy amounts of content. I, at one point, was doing 3 blog posts a week. I post every single day in my Facebook group twice a day, actually 3 times a day, to general topics that are more like business lessons. And then I do, the weekly themes, and we do other fun activities in there sometimes. And I'll definitely link that in there if you're not already in there. But basically what I'm saying is I gave her a long time before I had that first client. And so that's kind of one thing I want you to think about is it's okay if you feel like, oh, but I'm giving away so much content. Like, when are people going to buy from me? So number one, it takes some time for you to build up that value in the marketplace. But number two, make sure that you have all of the foundational pieces in place that we talked about in the previous episodes about validating your idea, knowing your ideal client. And of course, that's something that you can always tweak, go back to, reframe, get input on it. That's one of the things that I do with my clients because it's something that you can do it on your own and think you're going in a wonderful direction. And having that second set of eyes from somebody else who's an expert in that can be really, really helpful. So if you need additional help with that, be sure to reach out to me on social media or in my email. So creating content is great. I've talked about this, why it's good. You know why you want to do it. It's to help give value to the marketplace, to spread the word about what you do. But the question as a mom entrepreneur, then becomes, how the heck do I stay consistent with this? And how have I stayed consistent with it, right? I just talked about how frequently I post on Facebook and on my blog, and now I have a podcast as well. So how do I stay consistent? And the number one answer, if I had to just give like one answer, it would be I create a system. I don't wing it. And when I do wing it, I always regret it later. But what I'm saying is have a system. So when you have a system, you have a process that you always follow. So a system is basically like when you're doing the dishes, all of the dirty dishes are always on the right side of the sink, okay? So you wash those dishes and they go into the left side of the sink. That's how you know that they're clean. Well, a system works in the same way. You wouldn't put, dirty dishes on the wrong side because then you'd have to like start all over and wash all your dishes. So a system saves you a lot of time. And you want to create a system because your content can be repurposed. There's no rule saying that because you said these 5 words in a Facebook post 3 months ago, you cannot talk about it in a Facebook Live video today. Okay? In fact, it would be exhausting if you had to do that, if you had to always start at 0. That would be absolutely exhausting. And if you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're doing that, that's probably why. Because it's so much easier to have a system, something that you can repurpose, something that you can remix, something that you can mesh together in a different way, something that you're already doing perhaps, that you can slightly tweak the way you're doing it so that you can go out there and put that in front as marketing material. An example. Let me give you an example. If you get the same objection, or if you get the same obstacle on a sales call, and you, like, let's say you got it like 2 or 3 times in a row, you're on these sales calls and they're like, oh, well, I just don't have any time. I just don't have any time. Guess what you can be creating content around? Time management, right? So I want you to start to think like that. I want you to start to think, what are the things that keep popping up with my ideal clients? What is it that is bothering them? What is it that's holding them back? How can I help them through that? Because imagine if you give somebody the tools to actually manage their time, and that's the thing that's been holding them back, how much progress they'll be able to make, right? I had somebody message me just this weekend, and they said, you created this blog post, and this blog post I created, I think was like in April or something. She's like, this blog post was life changing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I feel beyond moved by that statement, right? And so imagine what somebody like that, I mean, if you're able to touch people in that way, first of all, the impact that you're making. I'm all about impact, right? And second of all, that's how you get followers. How you get followers is through creating something worth following. And for that to happen, you need content. You need unique ideas that are only you. You need a new perspective that nobody else is talking about. And the only way to do that is through creating content and starting to get comfortable speaking what you really truly think. I can't tell you how life-changing it's been for me to get out some of the topics that I feel really passionately about that aren't really that popular. And I've talked a lot about them on this podcast, and I've talked about bringing you the truth, right? And that's what that's all about. There's a lot of people who are not talking about the things I'm talking about. And that's okay, because I talk about them in the way that I do, because that's how I think. And so I want you to start to think about that when you're creating content. How can I make this unique? How can I make this different? How can I make this more me? How can I make this what I truly think and not really give two F's about what anybody else thinks about it? Because the most controversial content that you create, and I'm not saying like go cause a ruckus and get people pissed off. It's more about creating something that is just so true to you that it doesn't matter if somebody gets upset, because that's who you truly are and what you really believe. And so if that person's upset about it, oh well. That is what your content creation would look like in an ideal world, because that's going to attract the right people and repel the wrong people. And I want to talk a little bit about attracting and repelling for a second here, because I think people are so afraid of that repelling word. Oh my God, I'm going to, make people upset, and I'm going to move the wrong people out. And that's why it's so important to just be true to you. Be true to who you are and what you truly believe, and talk about those things. It's okay for it to be controversial. It's okay for it to not be popular. It's okay for it not to be what everybody else is talking about. That's what's going to attract the right people. And I want to give you the story, because I was in a Facebook group and somebody said, I would never hire a coach that said the word ladies. Like, hey ladies. And I say that all the time in my Facebook group. And it got me thinking about this whole attract and repel. No matter what you're doing, it could be the slightest thing, like saying, hey, ladies, you're going to be attracting and repelling. So you might as well do you and just be yourself and just get out there unapologetically. Because no matter what you do, you're going to make some people upset. That's just part of the game. That's part of being the leader. It's part of creating something unique. It's part of growing a following. For somebody to follow you, they have to really believe in what you're saying, and having those unique ideas and being unique is what's going to get you there. So don't be ever for 1 second afraid of being yourself. Okay, next, I'm going to link to that blog post that I mentioned in this episode about how to create content and repurpose it. The one that one of the girls said that was life-changing for her, okay? And I want to also give you one more resource, and that is my content challenge. It's a challenge that I do. It's evergreen, so you can join it at any time. And I show you step by step how to create content and plan it all out. It's perfect for the end of the year because we're actually going to plan out at least 3 months of content together. And so if you have not done this already, this is going to get you off on such an amazing start to 2017, as well as saving you so much time each and every week. As you remember, if you've been listening to the show, in the first episode, episode 0, I talked about this content creation system that I use, and I literally got it down to where when I was creating, not a podcast, but when I was just doing my blog, I got it down to 2 hours a week for creating like 40 something pieces of content. It was crazy. And so I want to share this with you because I think you deserve to save time every single day and really focus on the things that matter most to you. And so doing this before the holidays, doing this before the new year is perfect. So if you want to get that resource, go to marianacruiz.com/content to get it, or just go to the show notes section. If you click on the actual image in iTunes, it brings up the show notes, and it's right there is the link to the full show notes on my website, and it's all there for you. So I can't wait to see you inside of the challenge. You've been listening to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. By reviewing the show, it allows us to reach more moms to help them grow their businesses. So head on over there, leave us an honest rating, and I can't wait to catch up with you there. By the way, every single week, I'm going to select one winner who leaves a review, and you'll be able to get a free strategy session with me. In this 20-minute laser-focused session, you'll get the information that you need to move your business to the next level of success that you desire. Have an awesome day.